A lot of you know me, some might not. But the story that I'm about to tell you that God has given me, and I call it from gangster to gospel, because that's exactly what I was. Guys, back in 2007, I would have been the type of person that you would have looked at and went, oh man, if there was ever somebody that needed Jesus Christ in their life, that's him. Believe me. And guys, like I said earlier, God picks from the pits. He doesn't want anybody that's on the pedestal. He doesn't want somebody that's perfect. He wants you as you are. And that's exactly what it is. He wants you to be able to come to him humble and, with an open mind and an open heart, and be able to receive the blessings that he can give you. But with that being said, I've never given this live, so everybody just please bear with me. I know it's been a long time coming. But like I said, it all started back in 2007. And what started it all was I had somebody that I was friends with for a long time. And he had grown up in the gang lifestyle. He had lived on the streets the biggest majority of his life, in and out of his parents' house. And the similarity that I hope you see through this story is that we were a lot alike. We both had pretty good upbringings. We both had parents that you would have never thought you could have seen this from. And it was more or less a state of rebellion than it was more so than something that they felt they really needed to do, if that makes sense. But like I said, it started with three of us, and it all started one night when we all got together, and we had been dabbling in drugs and alcohol and women a little bit here and there. Well, more or less, long story short, like I said, bear with me, guys. Come on, God. Give the words that I need. I'll tell you what. All right, until I feel something else come to me, and see, I'm just going to read a little bit of it and see if I can take it and run from there. The man I once was, like I said, unfortunately, the epitome of a man that had Satan at the center of his life. There was no righteousness, there was no light that could be seen like there is now. All that could be found was darkness, guys. I wandered around blind to the truth, and at the total worst, there was no God, there was no Jesus. Sad, I know, but stay with me. Like I touched with briefly a second ago, it all started with the three friends, myself and two other buddies, who had been part of the street life and the gang affiliations for the biggest majority of their life. The streets were their brother, their friend, and in their earlier teens, and even now as adults, they had been in and out of jail on various charges, were both high school dropouts, had a love for drugs, sex, and money, same that I did. They promoted anger, malice, hatred toward everyone that ever crossed their paths. So that just about sums up what kind of person that you might have found when you looked at me about 9 years ago. That's what you've seen from what you see now. And through this story, I don't ever want anyone to feel like I'm bragging, because I'm not. I just want everybody to be able to see that the power that Jesus Christ has and how he can change you. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter where you've been. It doesn't matter how you feel. The things that you've done, it doesn't matter. None of it matters. But at this time in my life, I had my own home, my own vehicles. I had just received custody of our youngest son. Basically everything a young man could ever dream of having when he was 21 years old. I had a great job, probably make very good money for my age. But I threw it all away to go out and act like something I wasn't. It wasn't the way that I was raised. It wasn't the way any of us were raised. We were raised to know right from wrong. Guys, I grew up in church up until now. My mom and my dad, they're both lost. They have been. And I'll be the first to tell you that my mother, she believes she's a witch. She believes in the Wiccan lifestyle. And a lot of the things that It created a lot of strife and a lot of confusion in my life growing up, because she would go to these, I don't know which conventions, I don't know what you want to call them, where they go up on a mountain and do whatever it is they do and worship whoever it is they worship. Know that it's not God and Jesus Christ. But anyway, back to the point. It wasn't the way that I was raised. It wasn't the way that I was brought up. Like I said, I grew up in a Baptist church. I knew right from wrong. But at this point, like I said, I'd run into so much confusion and everything that I just wanted out. I wanted it out, and I think I found it. I thought I found it. But as time progressed, I started to care less and less about any of our adult responsibilities, including my son, that I had once worked so hard to get full custody of and to give him the best life that I could. Guys, all that I've ever done since I was 15 years old was work. You know, I had I'm not going to say it was always great, I had a very structured life growing up. You know, I was taught a lot of everything that I know now from my grandfather. You know, my mom, like I said, she practiced witchcraft. My dad was a provider. He was never a dad. He was never there. You know, and that's one reason that I have such a strong relationship with our oldest, Cody, because he has, you know, as far as he's concerned, his grandfather was his dad. It was the only, you know, solid male role model and influence he's had on his life until, you know, God blessed me with them. So a lot of everything that I had, I mean, I didn't know a whole lot coming up through adulthood. You know, once I hit, that's what I was telling my wife the other night, said when I hit an adult, guys, I was thrown, I felt like Daniel in the lion's den. I didn't know anything. You know, my mom had sheltered me. She made every decision for me. I was never taught anything. I didn't know what I was going to be facing when I turned 18 and it was time to do it myself. I had no idea. I really didn't. But anyway, back to the story. More or less, the more that I started hanging out with these people, you know, I started putting off my son, you know, and started dumping him into everybody's lap that I could find. You know, it didn't matter. All I know is that I wanted more of it. You know, you'd hear these people talk, you know, they had no responsibilities. They were carefree. They didn't want for nothing. You know, they got high, they had sex, they went around and shot stuff up. I mean, this was the kind of people that I was hanging out with. But the longer we started partying together, the closer we got. And of course, as I started hang on a second, sorry, backwards. But anyway, before long, you know, like I said, I've been on the party scene for a while now. And instead of going around with them and everything, I decided to bring it back into my house, to where I live, to where, you know, my home with my son. You know, and as time went on, you know, I was renting a house off one of my mom's very good friends, where I had really, really strict instructions to not have parties. Well, somebody who's, you know, rebelling and somebody that's acting really, really, really idiotic, you know, what's the first thing they're going to do? Have a party. So, have a party. One party led into a second, into a third, and before I know it, it'd been weeks since I'd seen my son. Weeks. I had no idea where he was. I was dabbling into so many drugs and so much alcohol, and I dove headfirst into a bottle and never came out of it. Plain and simple. And that's the way that I lived for probably close to a year and a half. That's the way that I lived. I dove into cocaine. I dove into a bottle. I dove into whiskey. I dove into a bottle of Xanax. I dove into a bottle of Oxycontin. Whatever I could find. Whatever would try to fill this void that I had for whatever it was. At this point, I had no idea what it was, you know, but, you know, I felt lost, and I was like, well, you know, maybe if I get so high, maybe I won't have to worry about it. Well, I did just that, but unfortunately that void was always there. Okay. like I said, a little bit of time had gone by, and before I knew it, it had been weeks since I'd seen my son. Well, this job that I was telling you about, as this time went by, as an adult and a responsible adult, you can't go weeks upon weeks without showing up to work and expecting to have a job when you got back. So, the nice house and the nice car and everything that I had, poof, it was gone. Didn't care, So at this point, after I lost everything, had to sell my car, to try and pay off some of the people that I've been running with. At this point, I'd done quite a bit of drugs, and I owed out quite a bit of money. So I had to pretty well sell everything I had to try and get this money back to these people before I ran into some serious repercussions. Because the people that I was unfortunately running with, they were no joke. The amount of money that I had out, it'll cost me my life. Plain and simple. It'll cost me my life. But anyway, at this point, like I said, I totally neglected every one of my responsibilities. So at this point, I ended up having to move back into my parents' house. I had nowhere else to go. I'd put all my rent money and everything else in my nose. And in my gut, from all the whiskey I drank and all the moonshine that I drank and everything and all the stupid drunken nights and wasted money that I couldn't tell you pillar to post. That year of my life was a blur. There's things that you look back and have me try to tell you something that happened. I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. And that's what it does to you after a while. But I will tell you this, looking back from what I am now, from that almost 10 years ago, that high that I was looking for was Jesus Christ. That's exactly what it was. Because I'm telling you what, from the first time that I was saved, and I'll backtrack here in a minute to fill you back in up to where I'm at now. But, from the feeling that I have now is something that I've always yearned for. And same thing that David's been saying the last couple of nights, it's my daddy. That's exactly what it's been a daddy issue. That's exactly what it is. I've never had that influence, and to be able to have, a God that is so amazing to know that it doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter. Just come as you are. Clean yourself. He'll clean you up. It doesn't matter. Come in your rags. It does not matter. It does not matter. All right, back to my story so you all can not be completely lost and have some idea of where I was at. Okay. All right. Well, after we started doing drugs and everything for a while, and I lost my house and didn't have a whole lot of responsibilities at this point, well, I decided that, just instead of just using the drugs, I was going to start selling them and everything. I lost my house, I lost my job, I needed income. So that's exactly what we did. We all got together and we all, stole and, however we could scrape this money together to be able to buy up enough and everything. And before I know it, we had enough to buy up a kilo of cocaine. Had close to 3 pounds of marijuana. Had Walmart bags full of Xanaxes, ecstasy, you name it. Well, the more time that we spent on the streets, we were making a pretty good living.